Welcome. My name is Kelly. If you haven't met me before, I own Dogkind and I specialize in helping very fearful dogs build confidence. And today we're talking about that particular challenge that a lot of us run into over the holidays. And anytime we have guests, but holidays are busier in that regard for a lot of us, where your dog really needs to be separated from visitors, but the dog doesn't want to be separated from you. So it becomes kind of a conflict for you. So today's topic is, how can we help those dogs that need to be kept separated from our guests happily confined, even if that means you can't be right there with them? Okay, in-home separation training for guests and gatherings. This is for you if your dog is afraid of strangers, or at least afraid of some people who come to your home, and you need to separate your dog, both for their safety, maybe your visitor's safety, or just for your dog's comfort. You need to separate your dog from visitors, but your dog doesn't like to be confined, or your dog doesn't like to be separated from you, which can be a problem if you want to spend time with your guests or visitors. Now, I should mention, I'm going to be showing you some clips of training for my dog Pancake, and the kind of training that has helped him become more comfortable being separated from me when I have people over. But I should note that there are options for separation, at least in some cases, separating your dog from your guests, but not you. One, of course, is you hang out with your dog in a room or behind a baby gate or next to their crate. If you're using a baby gate or a crate, you may also have the option of being able to talk to your guests in addition to being close to your dog. If there are other adults in the household able to entertain guests, then you may be able to retreat to another room periodically to be with your dog. That can help. If you have a smaller dog, I've done this with Pancake, had him with me in a backpack or sling so that he was close to me, but he was still confined and he couldn't get too close to the visitors, and that can work well sometimes too. Here are just a couple examples of Pancake and I basically being confined together. Here I'm sitting with him in the laundry room, which is just off the kitchen, and so I can talk to people in the kitchen if I want to, and there's a baby gate there keeping him away from the visitors and the kids in the kitchen. And this is a quick photo I shot, a couple of Christmases ago, of him in a sling type bag, which I would occasionally carry around with me if he was feeling particularly clingy, didn't really want to stay away from me. But let's talk about separation from you. This is something that you can train. Now, if you have a dog who's very uncomfortable being separated from you, and it's now December 17th and you're trying to train for Christmas, there's a good chance you won't get to where you really want to be by Christmas time, but you can definitely get started with the training. And I should also mention that this is not the same as separation anxiety training. Let's talk about how you can train this in-home separation from you so you can use it when you have visitors and guests. You'll want to train in the location or locations where you hope your dog will stay confined when you have visitors. Pick some behaviors that your dog will do happily when they are comfortable. And I'll give some examples of those with Pancake in a second. And also have a list of behaviors that indicate that your dog is not totally relaxed or comfortable. We're going to need both of these in order to sort of tailor the training plan to your dog. You're going to want these two lists: okay behaviors and not okay behaviors. You're going to start your training where you're getting only the okay behaviors and not the not okay behaviors. And I usually do repetitions and try to get 10 right in a row before making it any harder. And then when you make the decision about how much harder to make it, when you go to another step, I always tell people to increase difficulty about 10 times more slowly than you think you need to. So much, much more slowly than you think you need to. This is kind of a general overview by necessity because every dog will be different and have their own particular training plan. But let's talk about specifics for Pancake as an example, and hopefully that'll help you think about how you would apply this to your dog. In this example, I am using that laundry room I mentioned earlier as a training location because it allows Pancake to be separated from people in the kitchen and the rest of the house. But he can still see, which may or may not be desirable. And for him initially was not desirable, but now it's better if he can kind of see what's going on. the behaviors that I included on his list of okay behaviors. And what really this means is not only a way for me to judge, is this training too hard or not, but also what behaviors will I try to reinforce that I would like to see more of when he is confined away from me. Sleeping is obviously great. And if the dog's sleeping, I am not worried about them. But it's also okay if Pancake just is lying down and kind of watching what's going on, or if he's walking around the laundry room sniffing out treats, which there may well be some kibbles that have fallen since that's where we keep the dog food. It's also okay if he is working on a food toy or a chew. So all of those things tell me it's okay, he's probably okay, and those are all things that I can attempt to reinforce with food, except sleeping. If he's sleeping, I'll just leave him alone, but anything else I may attempt to reinforce by tossing him treats. What are his not okay behaviors? What tells me that probably I need to make it easier for him? If he walks up to the gate and stares, that is often a precursor to him barking. So I want to be conservative. I don't want him to bark. I don't want him to get to the point of barking. So if I see that, that would be a good time for me to step back the difficulty for him, which might mean returning to him and then leaving for less time or whatever step I'm on. If he's in the crate and he's standing up, that also is an indicator usually that he will start to sort of escalate his please let me out behaviors. Pawing at the crate door or pawing at the baby gate, those are also indicators he doesn't want to be in there. And of course, whining or barking. If he gets to the point of whining or barking, I probably have missed some earlier signals, but I keep them on the list because I definitely know that if he's doing that, he's not happy, and I need to make it easier. And then if I were going to list out what some training steps might look like for him, and I'll show you video of this, one thing that I think can really help with this training is if you introduce a little bit of your movement and separation without the sort of enforced confinement aspect first. So what I mean by that is here, I have the baby gate open when I'm doing the training. So he has the option to follow me if he really wants to. And so if you're working with a crate, it would be the same thing. I would work on some duration in the crate and some separation from you moving around a bit away from the crate without closing the crate door first before you add that barrier. And the reason for that is that for a lot of dogs, whether it's due to past learning history or somehow affects their motivation to try to get to you, the separation is way, way harder for them. For a lot of dogs, especially dogs with separation anxiety, as you may know, if there is a physical barrier preventing them from getting to you. So that's why I always start, or usually anyway, try to start this training without that physical barrier in place. So let's say I start with the baby gate open and my reinforcer delivery, or at least what I'm hoping will act as a reinforcer, are treats that I'm just tossing into Pancake's snuffle mat in the laundry room. And at first, the challenge is I'm just moving around the laundry room. And he can do any of those okay behaviors. If you remember, he can lie down on his mat, he can watch me, he can sniff around for treats, whatever. Any of those behaviors I'll toss treats for. If that's okay, so I can move around 10 times within the laundry room and he's just doing his I'm okay behaviors, then maybe I'd walk out of the laundry room just through the gate and right back. And again, I'm not closing that baby gate yet. And if I can do that 10 times, maybe I walk out of the laundry room and a little ways across the kitchen and right back. And every time I'm returning, I'm tossing some treats to reinforce whatever I'm okay behavior he happens to be doing. Once I've done some of that, then I'll move on to the gate closed. And this can be a real trigger for some dogs who have confinement anxiety or separation anxiety. Like if you even reach for a gate or a crate door or you move it closed, that might be too much for them. So what I have here as a first step is I'm literally standing at the gate and close it and immediately open it. And for some dogs, that even might be too much. You might have to reach out, touch the gate and not move it, and then toss a treat. And then you'll see in the video, when I first introduce some duration with the gate closed, I am right there. I'm literally standing right at the gate and tossing treats to Pancake. And then I slowly introduce very short absences from that gate, like 1 or 2 steps away from the gate and right back, and then slowly increase that duration. All right, let's look at some video first of the gate open steps. So here is the the laundry room, and you can see the baby gate on the left side, and that's open, and he's on his little snuffle mat, which doubles as a mat where he has done mat work and settle work. I wanted to show an example of a not okay behavior. Here, I took like one step over the gate, so I was halfway through the gate, and then on my way back to him, he started coming toward me, and he didn't approach the gate all the way, but he probably would have if I hadn't approached him. So now for the next several steps, I'm not stepping over the gate at all. I'm just moving around the laundry room. And his behaviors here that, I hope to reinforce are sniffing his snuffle mat for treats. I don't know if he's going to lie down in this particular clip. Okay, so anyway, there he went to, sort of partially lie down or sit down. That's fine. And some of these clips are maybe a little long and slow and boring, but the reason I don't normally include this many repetitions in my videos, but I wanted to give you a feel for what your actual training session might look like. Like I'm literally just doing 10 of these where just take a few steps, go back, treat, few steps, go back, treat. And he's hanging out on his mat, and that's a behavior I'm happy to reinforce. So that was me just moving around the laundry room. So there is still some separation here. A lot of times we discount the importance of this kind of these easy steps, but he was being separated from me, right? I mean, just because it wasn't enforced by a physical barrier, I was moving away from him, and he was not following me. So that's helpful. We need that for separation training. And now, here I'm starting the next set. I toss some treats onto his snuffle mat, and I'm stepping over the gate. So now I am leaving the room, but not closing the gate. Just remember that closing of the gate or the crate door can ramp up anxiety and attempts to exit for many dogs. And then I'm coming back pretty much right away and tossing a treat. I'm standing right there. I'm not moving any farther away than one step, so I'm kind of watching him. And sometimes I'll wait until he looked up. There, I waited too long. He walked over and approached the gate. And so now I'm dropping back to some easier steps. So you can't see me, unfortunately, because of the way I had my camera, but I'm just standing just off screen to the right in the laundry room. And I'm going to fast forward this a little, but you can still see. So I'm tossing treats to him here, and he's just hanging out. So I did several of those easier ones, and then I made sure when I went back to exiting the gate and coming back into the laundry room, I tried to be faster about it. So I didn't linger. I don't know if I got distracted by something in the kitchen and that's why I was gone too long. But remember, on my list of not okay behaviors, walking to the gate was one of them that I want to avoid. So this is just like grinding out the reps. Back and forth, back and forth. And this might look like, wow, this is a lot of work or it takes a long time, but really, like this clip right here is 2.5 minutes that I'm showing you. So it's not all that much time. So back and forth several more times. All right, let's move on now. I just want to remind you here. So those were these first 2 points. I move around the laundry room, I walk out the laundry room, and just through the gate and back. I didn't include clips of this third point just because we would be here for a long time tonight. And I wanted to show some gate close steps. Okay, now let's look at the closing of the gate. And you can think of this as any sort of barrier you're going to put up to contain your dog. It could be a baby gate, a crate door, it could be a bedroom door. And so first, remember, we're just going to introduce a little bit of gate movement. In my case, I was able to close it all the way and open it right away. But it may be that your dog needs even smaller step than that. And then some duration with the gate closed with me right next to it. And if you were using a crate, it would be similar. You could, close the crate, but be sitting right next to it and delivering treats. and then very slowly again reintroducing that separation. So in this first chunk of training where the gate was open, we did introduce some physical distance between me and Pancake, but when we add the gate closed, we're going back, stepping way back with the separation, because that gate is such a big increase in difficulty for so many dogs. Okay, so here is our little man on his mat. I'm going to close the door. You see it on the left. Open it right away. Toss a treat. Close the gate. Open it. Toss a treat. And again. So you can imagine this. These are just, these aren't perfectly identical, all the reps, which, isn't that big of a deal as long as they're pretty similar. Mostly because you don't want your criteria to jump around too much within a set when you're trying to make a decision about changing difficulty based on the results of that set. But a little variation isn't going to destroy your training or anything. So anyway, very brief gate closings and treats and then going back. And one thing you can't really see in this video, but it is something worth paying attention to when you do this training with your dog. If you're using a gate or a crate door or something that has latches, you may want to separate out that step. So when I was doing those really quick closures of the baby gate and immediately opening it, I was not engaging the latch at the top of the baby gate. That would take me an extra second or two and also makes more noise. And the same is true if you're working with a crate door that has a latch on it. So you may want to skip doing the latching in the beginning. All right, and then here's just an example of building a little duration now with this physical barrier between us, and then introducing just a little bit of separation of distance. I mean, already there's separation here, right? Because his mat where he tends to spend time is across the laundry room. So I'm just standing right there and I'm waiting to toss treats until either he's eaten what I already tossed or he has given up on it. I'm trying to hit his snuffle mat, but I'm not always succeeding. That's okay. So these, what I'm watching for here are, is he engaged in just looking for food or hanging out at his mat? And if I had a longer lasting food toy, I usually use those when I work up to longer durations of separation. But if you were working on a food toy, I might be watching for, is he working on it or does he keep stopping? And then here are some examples of very brief and short distance separation. So I just took 2 steps away and then came back. And it takes him kind of a long time to find his treats, which is partly why I'm walking so slowly. I'm kind of keeping an eye on him and waiting to throw a new treat until he's, found the previous one. So that looking for food and eating are okay behaviors, so that's why I kept going there. And then you would slowly increase the distance and duration associated with the separation. I did want to add one quick note, and if there is interest, let me know in the comments if there's interest in a training video on this topic. If you use food toys like a stuffed Kong or a Topple or a Licky Mat, for some dogs, they really need training on basically the skill of working on a food toy when they're not right next to you. They may need help just learning how to use food toys at all, which is fine. But I've had quite a few client dogs, and actually Pancake is like this, or used to be like this too, where it was like providing him with a long-lasting chew or food toy was almost a cue to him to come find me and sit right against me. And then he would settle down and work on it. So it's almost like he had to be touching me in order to be comfortable working on his toy. And obviously, if that's the case, then a long-lasting food toy won't be that helpful to occupy your dog when they're separated from you. And so you may have to specifically train, work on a food toy when you're not touching me and when you're just a short distance from me. And if this describes your dog, you might need to work on the skill explicitly and separately. And you can do it without a physical barrier in place, just like we started with this baby gate training today. Some ways you could do that, since if you just give your dog the toy, if there's no barrier between you, they're probably just gonna come right up to you and sit against you. So you can tether the food toy and sit. Don't sit like across the room or even up on the sofa with them on the floor. Sit literally like 6 inches from them and see if they can eat there. Or if your dog is okay being, say, in a crate or in a confinement area, if you're sitting right against the gate or crate door, that might be a way to introduce a tiny bit of separation while working on a food toy. Remember that having that physical barrier can really make it more difficult for dogs with any kind of confinement or separation distress. And so if you have that barrier in place, you really want to start sitting like literally touching the crate door is what I had to do for Pancake. And then increase distance in tiny, tiny increments, literally an inch or two at a time. So this can be done, but you do have to be patient. If you push it too fast, and I've certainly done that many times, it ends up just slowing you down overall. So if you would like to do the separation training at home, choose your training locations, choose your I'm okay and slow down behaviors. And it helps me to write those out like on paper, so I have them in front of me when I'm training. And this training, honestly, like most training, especially with fearful dogs, you're looking for high volume and low difficulty. So it's all fun, your dog's winning constantly, getting it right all the time, and you're doing a lot of it. I hope this was helpful. If you don't already have our guide to creating a safe haven for your dog, or a Zen Zone, go to dogkindtraining.com/Zen Zone. That's a PDF guide with some video and photo links in it so that you can see how to set up this kind of happy confinement area for your dog in your home.